I'm Vicki Clark, President of Cape May County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very delighted to be here with two of my very distinguished colleagues that I work, seems like every day on this issue with. I'm very pleased to introduce you to them here today as we talk about the summer work travel program. And I think we might have a couple people who still have their audio on, so I'm going to ask everyone to please put themselves on mute. But first, I'm going to introduce you to Tracy Doherty Taylor, Counsel with Alignment Government Strategies in Washington, D.C. Tracy has over 25 years of experience in legislative, regulatory, and public policy advocacy at the federal level. She provides clients with strategic solutions to meet their broad-ranging goals and objectives. Her legislative and regulatory practice focuses on a range of issues, which include immigration, foreign relations, transportation, and consumer protection issues. Tracy represented clients' interests in the most recent comprehensive immigration reform, highway reauthorization, aviation administration reauthorization, and consumer protection bills. Her clients include private companies, national trade associations, and nonprofits. And I've gotten to know Tracy through her work with IAPA, the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, working together on this critical summer work travel program, also referred to as Bridge USA. Also with us today, oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Also with us today is Tracy Beckson, Senior Executive Officer with Morey's Piers, which of course is right here in Cape May County. She oversees the corporation's Human Resource Division and Government Relations. Denise has spent over 30 years in the amusement theme park industry, dedicating most of her career to Morey's Piers. She is active and passionately involved in the industry at large and has served on IAPA's Board of Directors, the IAPA Executive Finance Committee and Strategic Planning Committee, and she is the current chairman of the Government Relations Committee. Denise is a senior associate for Ellis & Associates and serves as the director for their International Aquatic Safety School. She is also a board member for both the New Jersey Amusement Association and the New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association. Denise also serves as one of two Cape May County representatives on the Cumberland, Salem, and Cape May Workforce Development Board. So you can see we have very knowledgeable individuals sharing what they know about this program with us here today. So as we're going to move into our program, we're going to cover some topics, including the timeline we're on, the clock is ticking, the visa status, travel requirements and restrictions, housing concerns, what we've been doing to date, and certainly not just the three of us today, Tracy, Denise, and myself, but a whole coalition of people across the country, and then some next steps that we can work through together. So with that, I would like to ask Tracy to take over the program for us.
Thank you, Vicki. Thanks for including me. It's a pleasure to be here today. Just as a little background on the Summer Work Travel Bridge USA program, it's a unique program that is run in partnership with the State Department, businesses, and State Department sponsored, generally nonprofit sponsors. It was started, or it's run under the authority of the Fulbright-Hays Act, and the purpose of the program is to promote greater understanding of American people and culture around the world. The first program was in 1987, and since then, about 2.3 million exchange visitors have participated. The vast majority have gone home and been, with a positive view of the United States, and many, have become leaders, business leaders, and political leaders in their country, increasing the public diplomacy value of the program. The students must be on their summer school break. They can come and work and travel for 4 months. And something that I think is unique and important in the program is because they can work and pay for their program, it really reaches more deeply into their civil society. And you bring students over with a wider range of economic backgrounds than many other government programs. In a typical year, there are about 100,000 plus university students that come on the program. For example, in 2019, there were 108,000. But in 2020, with COVID, there were only about 6.7% of the usual amount. New Jersey, because it's a great place to come and because of the beaches and communities, is one of the most popular states. It's the 8th most popular state, and typically there are about 5,000 summer work travel students in the state, with Cape May County being the most popular destination with between 2,500 and 3,000 in a typical year. This year, last year and this year, we have experienced hurdles with the program. Last June, the president issued a proclamation, 10052, which prohibited the issuance of J and other visas enabling work. This proclamation was extended in December through March 31st. Unfortunately, President Biden and his administration let the proclamation expire, enabling the issuance of the J visas for the summer work travel program. And that was, the first step, and it was very helpful in ensuring that we would get some students this summer. However, it really was just the first step, because now we actually need the issuance of visas. And this year, unlike in past year, there's been no real uniform approach at the consulates in terms of processing of the J visas, and not much accurate and up-to-date information. Normally, sponsors and partner agencies have annual meetings with embassies to discuss visa appointments for the upcoming season, and they work together. But this year, things have been extremely delayed, partially because of COVID, partially because the embassies aren't as staffed, and just partially because it is such an unusual year. We're hearing from, a few of the embassies that they're not, they have they have a few appointments, but that the slots are going to be limited. And when we say limited, sometimes is to as few as like 5 a week. We're hearing from, we're also hearing that that the embassy, we're not seeing the kind of guidance we would like to see out of the State Department to the embassies, consistent guidance, so that what's happening across, around the world, because the students come from, about 30 to 40 countries from around the world. And so there is really just not the kind of information and consistency we would like to see. And to sort of outline the scale of the problem, at this point in a typical year, probably about 70% of the participants would have a visa appointment scheduled or actually have their visa, and that'd be about 70,000 students. And that would be in anticipation of arriving, Memorial Day or early June. Currently we have really probably more like in the single digits in terms of percentage of people who have had students who have had their visa appointments scheduled. So it's really critical that changes are made, and their changes are made soon, so that we can ensure that students can come over here in time to help with the summer season. All this is really unfortunate because A, there's a need, and B, we'd hate to see the public diplomacy benefits of this program be lost this year. And this year, I think everyone is anticipating that there will be a lot of business in the travel and tourism area. In the shore communities, American vacationers have, they have cabin fever. They haven't been out. They want to go somewhere. They want to do something with their families, but they want to do it, somewhat close to home. So, and travel abroad is still limited. So we're anticipating that there'll be, a lot of demand in, shore communities. And so, we'd really like to have have these students who can help these businesses meet that demand. And after last year, and with what was hit with COVID, how businesses were affected, it's critical that businesses are able to, as fully staff in order to meet, the needs. Next slide. It's also critical for the long-term protection of this program, and we've been talking about that around, with policymakers around the country. Not only does the program support businesses and jobs, it supports American jobs. By bringing in exchange visitors. The exchange visitors generally help businesses in the shoulder seasons before Americans are around and available, when kids are still in school, when they're finishing up, but when some families are vacationing. And it also helps seasonal businesses to fully open and maximize their revenue, which helps support their career workforce. Again, this is particularly important this year. We find that in the summer work travel program, about 89% of the exchange visitors are placed in travel and tourism businesses, and 90% are placed in small businesses. So what we've been advocating for is a prioritization for these students. Businesses have a short window to recover economically this summer, and we need these students here as soon as possible in order to assist with the shortfalls. If the State Department takes months to address the issue and fix the visa backlog, we'll be out of luck really for this summer, and we'll need to head into another the off season without businesses achieving their normal revenues. So we really need this. It's really an issue that's happening now, and we would we need the State Department and the Biden administration to initiate changes at this juncture.
Good afternoon. So Tracy's sort of gave us an understanding of where we are right now and the immediate need. There are some travel things to be aware of for this season, provided we get some students who are able to participate in the program. To add to Tracy's scale of the problem when she spoke about 70% typically having a visa or visa appointment, at Morey's we hire about 500 of these students, and currently we have about 15 that have a visa or visa appointment. So that goes to the single digits that we're hearing in the industry. We're also seeing here locally. For those that are able to come this summer, we know that there's going to be some travel restrictions. So we can go on to the next slide here. The first restrictions to be aware of are travelers are currently prohibited from entry into the US if they're coming from the Shenzhen area, also United Kingdom, Ireland, China. And so people in those areas are under a ban right now. And so even if visa processing happens, we still have another hurdle to clear with that ban. Next slide. There's pre-flight testing currently in place for anyone entering the United States. You have to have a negative COVID test in order to board your plane or show proof of a recent recovery. And that's for all air passengers entering the country. And you can see on our slide here, which I think will be accessible through the chamber.
Affordable alternative to health insurance. A typical family dollars a month, you might save even more. Manage your
Thomas is up. There we go. So we can go ahead on to the next slide. Vaccinations. There's been lots of questions in terms of what are the requirements for vaccinations. In other countries, the vaccination rollout has not been as swift as it has been here, and they're not readily available overseas. It does vary country by country. And generally speaking, students, unless they had a medical condition, would be at the back of the line for vaccinations in their country. So tying travel to vaccinations would not likely be a good idea. However, once the students are in state here in New Jersey, the way that the governor's orders read, if you work in New Jersey and you meet the age requirement, then you're eligible. So you do not need to be a New Jersey citizen or a US citizen. So they would be eligible to receive vaccinations once they're here in the States. Next slide. Quarantines. Let's talk about requirements and restrictions related to quarantines. So the New Jersey issued a travel advisory last year, and the purpose was to limit the spread of COVID in our communities. The current New Jersey recommendations are that once you arrive, you have two options if you're unvaccinated. Get tested within 3 to 5 days after travel, and even if negative, stay home and quarantine for 7 days. Or without a test, you would quarantine for 10 days. The New Jersey Department of Health information and recommendations are the same as the CDC recommendations. And we've included a link on this slide. They state the same thing they did last summer, that self-quarantine is voluntary, but compliance is expected. Additionally, employers are required by OSHA to provide a safe work environment. Therefore, it's recommended to review your workplace practices and determine what precautionary steps need to be implemented. Some considerations and best practices: have a written COVID policy that includes mask wearing, distancing, what to do if feeling symptomatic, what to do in the case of a known exposure. Consider some type of screening mechanism, such as, but not limited to, temperature screening, pre-shift surveys that include symptom checks and possibly activity checks. Ensure your record keeping complies with HIPAA, and consider your housing practices as well. If you are hosting J1 students, you need to have a plan for exposures, how you're going to manage isolations and quarantines within the house so as to prevent a spread. And with that on housing, I'll turn it over to Vicki to talk about housing as a bigger issue.
Thank you, Denise. Well, housing certainly is a big issue with our summer work travel students. As we know, housing in general is in very short supply. Part of that is because we are expecting a very robust summer season. Employers who do not own their own housing still have a responsibility to assist students in finding housing. And we are being contacted on a regular basis with asking for assistance in helping to find housing for students expected to come. So we know that there is declining inventory, and there is also, of course, the dilemma of the increase in what is available or what has been available previously, with the many properties being $100 per person per week for dormitory shared style housing. So we are just asking that everyone really reach out, looking for those alternative properties that perhaps may not have been on the market before. Host families are permitted in the program. So if there are homeowners in the community that, might have that garage apartment or have available rooms, bedrooms in their home that would be suitable for inviting a student to rent a room in their home, to consider that type of housing, because if we are successful in the students getting the visas and being able to come here and work in our communities, we certainly do have to have a place for them to live. So we need to resolve this problem. And then I would also say, as a community dependent on the summer work travel program, we need to be looking at long-term solutions for this. And then, as Denise mentioned, we also have to have those plans in place should a student become ill with COVID-19 virus, and employers be thinking of all those situations in which they're going to be helping that student through that situation themselves, including paying them for the time lost from work, disinfecting the living quarters where they've been, all for the protection of your existing staff as well. So lots of things to be thinking about on the housing front there. But let's move on and talk about the efforts that we've been making to date. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the program, this has been, really a long-term effort and dates back to efforts that were going on last summer season. And there is a lot of concern about the program, not just for the summer and fall of 2021, but what will we do if we are looking at 2 years without the program. This has been a multi-level effort. Really first thinking about the efforts of our congressional representatives. Senator Menendez has been exceptional in his support for the program, not just as our senator, but also in his role as chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. He has signed on to letters and authored a letter personally as the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Senator Booker has been very supportive of the program. We have letters signed by the entire New Jersey congressional delegation, written to them, and support from the entire delegation. Our Congressman Van Drew has been very supportive of this effort. Our state senators, while this is not a state issue, our state senators have been very supportive as well as our assemblymen. We have had op-eds placed in New Jersey newspapers, commentary in the Atlantic City Press, several media stories written about the issue. We've had outreach efforts by a New Jersey Coalition of Business Organizations, the New Jersey Amusement Association, Restaurant and Lodging Association. IAPA is very involved in this, the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce, New Jersey Business Industry Association. All of our local chambers of commerce, of course, have been very supportive. So this is not just, any one single effort, but multi-level, multi-organizational. And I certainly want to give a special shout out to our Cape May County commissioners who, have all been very supportive about this issue and have encouraged sign-ons to coalition letters, and that is certainly very supportive. You don't really see that in a lot of areas. Cape May County is dependent on the tourism issue, and this is certainly very important to us, and so we want to thank them for their support as well. And I also want to mention that on St. Patrick's Day, the Irish Prime Minister mentioned this in his telephone call with President Biden. So, this has really reached far and wide. And so I want to make sure that everybody knows how much support that we've gotten for this program. And, the business community has been reaching out, and, so it starts, I like to say it starts at the bottom, with the people that it matters the most to. I shouldn't say the bottom, it starts at the grassroots level. It starts with the people that it matters the most to, and it reaches up to the top. So it's really been multi-level. So I think Tracy, you're going next.
Yes. I'll just stop for a second before I continue. Y'all are very fortunate to have Vicki and Denise spearheading this effort, because they have taken a role that's outsized to the size of your community nationwide, and making sure that people understand that this is an important issue, and really working to get support for it. Having said that, what we're trying to do right now is provided options for the State Department to take to hopefully get moving more quickly on visa issuance. One thing that they could do is they could temporarily waive in-person interviews for J1 applicants, given the crisis that's facing the international exchange community, waiving personal appearances for visas of qualified return participants applying in the same category, and those that have previously been issued visas in 2020. And this would do a lot both for the program and opening up opportunities for access to visas for the students, but it also would help the consular staff save time and immediately help with their backload, and prevent, if they are experiencing limitations due to COVID, it would give them a way out of that, and to still be able to get these visas moving without exposing staff potentially to COVID. and we do understand that there is a limitation in the department, but we're looking for creative ways to get around that. Another thing that could be done is J1 visa applicants could be put onto the department's national interest priorities because it's an economic recovery issue. And using the science, including, vaccinations and testing to exempt J1 visa students like F1 students are currently exempt. We'd also like to see the embassy websites include clear and up-to-date information about visa interviews and appointments. This is really important for the exchange visitors who want to come so they know what's going on and their sponsors know what's going on. The Department of State should develop a specific timeline for lifting the travel bans and, finding ways to substitute proof that, exchange visitors have, had a negative COVID test or vaccination before coming to the U.S. Another thing they could do is consider scheduling, having particular days like Tuesdays or J1 days and prioritizing and trying to reduce the backlog on those days. And as needed, borrow consular officers who have experience in training from embassies, other embassies or other parts of the embassies where the volume's not as high or the need is not as immediate. There's a lot of programs that need to access visas, but this one needs to access visas now in a very short period of time, a 30-day time span. So we'd like to see prioritization in those ways. And, I'll end with the benefits of that are, if you have a program that doesn't have a program like this, that goes 2 years with virtually no students, it really handicaps the program in the future. There's a whole network that's been established both between, active sponsors, businesses that come to rely on these exchange visitors, word of mouth amongst the exchange visitors at their schools and recruiters overseas. And when you start to see 2 years without much of a program, you start to lose that infrastructure. And we'd hate to see that because this program, no cost to the American taxpayer, promotes public diplomacy, and it helps businesses. And, we also, this is a year where businesses need this additional support, particularly in the shoulder seasons, but it's going to be critical to businesses that suffered last year. So we'd like for Americans to be able to get out and enjoy their summers, and for local businesses to be able to operate at their maximum capacity, utilizing the program.
So more next steps that we wanted to talk about was really, how employers can really advocate for this program. So what we really recommend is people talk to you about this. If the media contacts you, wants to know about why the program is important to you, really know your numbers. Know, how many students you're looking for, why it's important to you, how many other jobs in your business are critical to this program, critical to your business, and understand the challenges that the students that are coming to work in your business are making in order to get here, and talk about the need for hiring these students, in the earlier part of the summer season or the later part of the summer season, that, the fact that these students are not taking jobs away from Americans, they're filling positions that otherwise don't get filled. Every day we are listening to businesses talk about, how they just can't get people now applying for jobs. And we feel that we're really at a crisis point this year for filling all the positions that we're going to have available this year. And the summer work travel program is just such a small but critical part of our positions that we fill. Talk about all the efforts that you do make in looking to hire locally. and have those statistics, really at the ready to talk about them, about all the opportunities that you put forth in hiring local. And all of the positions perhaps, or the shifts that you have to cut because you aren't fully staffed. Cape May County is a very small county as far as population goes, and we have an older population, a lot of senior citizens here who aren't necessarily in the job market. So it is very hard to hire locally. Now, we do anticipate that we're going to have a very good summer season. And that's going to put more demand on our businesses this year. And, the tourism season, the tourism industry is one that really demands good customer service. So people are going to be expecting to be served well, and to serve people well, we need to be fully staffed. So these are just some of the things that we want to be talking about, but be sure to be ready to tell the stories of all the great students that you have hired over the years, of the culture that they bring to your business, and the wonderful things that they add to the customer experience by being from another country, and how you miss having them, and the great relationships that you've also been able to build with them. So it's a wonderful story to tell, and we want to bring about those positive points as well.
So I'll talk for a minute about the business and economic impact. We have so many seasonal jobs in our coastal and shore communities, and there are absolutely more jobs than workers. I know we keep very good data at Morey's, and we have 1,500 positions annually, and I have about 200 positions every year that go unfilled. So the thought that these students are somehow usurping American employees or taking American jobs are just false. We have more than enough jobs to go around. And we did a pretty extensive survey was done of the summer work travel impact a couple of years ago, and I'm going to share some information from that. 50% of host employers in the state that the absence of summer work travel program would negatively impact their revenues. And 39% go on to say that without these students, they would very likely have to reduce their hours of operation, with another 22% of employers reporting that it's likely or very likely they would have to lay off permanent American staff members after the season if these positions were unfilled, if we didn't have the summer work travel students. 97% of employers state that they have more seasonal jobs available than workers to fill them. So back to my point of having empty positions every year, that's the same boat that we're all in, with more jobs than people. In terms of economic impact, the students contribute about 26.9 million. I have 0.5 here, but that's wrong. It's 26.9 million contributed to the New Jersey economy by the summer work and travel participants annually. And that's for accommodation, food, entertainment, travel. You see this lovely picture here on our slideshow. This is our HR office in the summer. So as much as I like to shop, and my colleagues would all joke with me, those are not my boxes. Those boxes are coming in from our students. They're traveling here, they're sightseeing here, they're buying things here. I think most of them want to earn enough money to pay back their parents or any loans they took to do the program. And a lot of the rest of the money they're spending here. They're in the United States. They don't know when they'll be back. They want to experience all of that our travel and tourism and culture has to offer, but they also want to go home with the newest iPhone and the most up-to-date piece of fashion. And so shopping is a big part of it. And they are absolutely taking that money that we're giving them and putting it right back into the community. The total estimated contribution of summer work travel students to the United States in 2016 was about 509 million. So that's a lot of money for people who are here about, at most 16 weeks, but more on average 10 to 12 weeks. So they're earning that money and putting it right back in. So these are important things to note as we talk about how we operate our shore communities, and as we count their dollars in our tourism dollars and in our earnings for our communities. And not having these students is going to be extremely detrimental to our businesses in the area, our housing owners, and to our communities in general. Next slide. So these are a few talking points on the diplomacy portion. It's really important to note that the program is not a labor program. That gets confused sometimes. It is a diplomacy program first and foremost. It must meet its diplomacy objectives as its primary goal. The fact that it fills a business need is great. It gives us another argument when we can talk about the business and economic recovery, but we always have to go back to the fact that it's a diplomacy tool. And it is one that the Department of State greatly values, as Tracy said. It hits a market in these foreign countries that otherwise may not be able to experience the United States, and these people go on to be leaders in their own countries. So these students are coming over to experience and learn about the United States, and the only way they can afford to do that is by working. So having that opportunity to earn the money that they need to live here while they're here, to pay for their travel, their insurance, their visas, that's a huge part of it. They add diversity to the workplace. Many businesses say their American employees cite the international workforce as a reason for choosing their summer job. I know when we survey our staff, they may not have selected it for that reason, but they stay and they come back for returning seasons because they really enjoy working with people from all over the world and learning about various cultures. 92% of host employers say the students contribute to a positive culture in the workplace, and 83% of host employers say that participants make the community more sensitive to other cultures. The international students are popular in our community, and they definitely bring a diversity. I always laugh when I go somewhere to either a restaurant or there's a European grocery store, and you can see that they're catering in the summertime to some of those international travelers and carrying things that may not be common in our traditional restaurants or grocery stores, and that's always great to see as well. And so for some further talking points on this, 91% of their summer work travel participants report cultural exchange as their top reason for participating in the program. Very few participants said that learning specific work skills or gaining experience for a degree program or earning money were their top reason. So they're really coming because they want this cultural exchange, because it meets that diplomacy goal. And 76% of participants have a higher overall regard for the US after the program. So it's working. They come here, they get to meet Americans firsthand, see American way of life, and leave with a better impression than they came with. 94% say they made friendships with Americans during their stay, and 88% reported that they plan to keep in touch with their new American friends. So these are all great diplomacy points. A couple things that you can do to help with this and to help get that message out. Join the coalition, AmericansForCulturalExchange.org. Follow your sponsors' news blasts, attend webinars like this one to understand the current climate and challenges. Advocate for the program. Let your federal and state politicians know how important these students are to your business, to keeping your American workforce employed, to creating new jobs. 2 years in a row of low numbers is going to do long-term harm to the program. As both Vicki and Tracy said, this program in these other countries is largely based on word of mouth, somebody's older sister, somebody's friend. When we have a 2-year gap with folks not doing the program, all of the infrastructure and groundwork and branding and marketing that's been done over the years, over many years, is lost. So it's really important that we not have an anemic program this year, that we continue to press for immediate and swift changes and decisive changes to visa processing so that we can see enough numbers come this year that the program is meaningful. And be a local champion. Educate and inform those in the community that this is not a cheap labor program. It does not take jobs from Americans. Make sure your business partners, your vendors and suppliers know of the impact on your business and therefore the indirect impact on their business. Encourage them to do outreach and make them program warriors as well. I think the more people who are truly informed and have the facts and information about this program, the more understanding we have. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of misconceptions, and the program is only a benefit to Americans. I was on a walk with a friend this morning and said to her, it doesn't cost the taxpayer money. They come over and spend their money in the community. The revenues that are able to be realized because they're here in this country working, keep Americans employed, create jobs. It is just a win-win for our cultural, for our cultural diplomacy program, but also for our tourism communities. And we have to continue to repeat that message over and over again until we've reached everyone who may have different views on it or different understanding of it, and try to educate them. Vicki?
So our next steps, what are we going to do if we don't get these students? And I don't think anybody really has a real answer to that, but we do have a few suggestions. We know that we're going to have job openings, but we are trying to come about with some realistic suggestions. We have petitioned the Department of Labor to provide seasonal grants to tourism businesses that would enable tourism businesses to offer a higher wage scale for seasonal positions. Also for the state of New Jersey to launch an advertising campaign, advertising in out-of-state areas to promote jobs in New Jersey along our shore areas. Where there is such a great opportunity to come and work and enjoy living and being here for these great positions. There are businesses that are actively recruiting in southern areas where their season is winding down. And so they're recruiting workers in southern states already. And then, of course, one of the realities of COVID-19 has been a lot of people that have seasonal homes have decided that they are living here now, and their children have been going to school remotely. So perhaps some of those folks would like to, have their first time job here. So appealing to some of these new residents. And if those things aren't successful, then we think that we need to launch a Be Patient and Kind campaign, asking our customers to have patience in all of our business and realize that the workforce that we do have is doing the best that they can. I think we need to do the best that we can for our customers, but we need to ask our customers to realize that our businesses probably are going to be understaffed, and ask them to have a little patience with their service. So with that, I would like to invite everyone to ask questions. We can take questions from the chat or use the raised hand feature. I turned off the PowerPoint so that I could see if everyone, if you want to raise your hand, use that feature, or physically raise your hand so I can see you as well with that. Let's see, we do have a couple things in the chat here. So we have a question from Karen Knight. What happens if the numbers aren't achieved in the J1 students for Cape May County businesses? How many local businesses signed the letter to Biden? How many were asked to sign? Well, how many were asked to sign? I would say, how many were asked to sign? I would say that number is well in the thousands, because I know that every business organization in Cape May County sent that letter out to their membership base. I do not know how many actually signed it, because we don't get that information, and we don't always get it. Sometimes we do get a copy of the final letter, but not until after the closing date. So I don't know how many have signed. And the first part, what happens if the numbers aren't achieved for J1 students in Cape May County? I'll just take a stab at that to begin with. And then Denise and Tracy, if you'd like to add on. I think we'll have another summer like last season and have many of our businesses that are seriously understaffed. And as Tracy said in the beginning, Morey's Piers, I believe you said, had about 50% of your positions unfilled, and certainly was not the only business in that situation. Tracy, do you want to add to that?
Well, I was just, at least in terms of the letter, if people are on this call that want to sign the letter, let us know, because we can either potentially we can still fit you on, or if the letter's already gone, I'm sure that we could start another letter and add new businesses to resend as a subsequent follow-up letter. In terms of, I think it's important to keep the pressure on, and this isn't a direct question into what you're going to do about employees for this summer, but I do think that it's really important that we keep the pressure on, and your legislators have been really good, but continuing to communicate your need in the media and to your legislators and your senators and your congressmen and the governor, and let them know that your delegates, that this is a program that's important, and anything they can do to reach out to the administration is helpful. I think the more the administration hears from, people that they, communities, the more important it is, and the more helpful it'll be.
To add to the question is, what happens within Cape May County? I think that we're a resilient county, and we're a county of hardworking people who will grind it out the best we can. I know we'll all have on our hats for, making French fries or cooking or lifeguarding or whatever it is we need to do. But that said, I think it's going to be even more challenging than last year, because what we're seeing from various travel and tourism surveys and companies is that bookings are really outstanding. It's really an optimistic season. I think we're going to really have a lot of visitor demand, and that's going to be a little different from last year. Sure, people came down and we saw people, but there was more hesitancy with the vaccination rollout continuing and gaining speed. People are more comfortable, and so I think we're going to have exceedingly high visitor demand, and so that gap between visitor demand and staff is going to become greater and more pronounced. So I think it's going to be even more challenging without the program. I don't think we have long for the trajectory on this program to change. So as Tracy said, I think it's really important to keep the pressure on and even to turn the pressure up, because we have a couple of weeks, maybe 30 days at the most, in order to have the State Department set some guidance that then is a change and is implemented within the embassies and consulates, so that these students can come here. The more time that goes by, students are canceling and dropping off and unsure of the direction. And, in order for it to be meaningful to them, they need, at least a couple months to be able to participate. So, so I think keeping that pressure on, so we can try to bridge that gap between visitor demand and staffing, so that we can provide all the folks that like to come to Cape May County for their vacation, to get away from it all, an opportunity to do so, and not to come and be frustrated by longer wait times and, potentially us not being able to service them the way that they've been accustomed to prior to the pandemic.
I just wanted to jump in and follow up too. And we've made it sound very dire, and it isn't great, but we have seen it's been, less than a month since the presidential proclamation expired. And with the work that has been done, we have seen a little bit of movement in embassies, but it's just not enough. And so we really, and now is the time to continue to work. And that's why we urge people to continue to weigh in now, because the pressure among the policymakers and in the media is helping somewhat, but it just needs to help, needs to move quickly.
Thank you. we have another question here. As an alternative to the J1s this summer, could daily bus transportation from other counties in the state be provided to willing workers? Denise?
Yeah, I think that that's certainly an avenue that we could explore. At Morey's, we do work with someone in Cumberland County and bring in 2 bus loads daily. So I think in terms of larger than that and helping everybody in the county and in the area, that's something that maybe we can explore through some of our coalition partners, and something maybe Vicki, I think you've talked before, Vicki, through the Workforce Development Board about this issue and about the free fare transportations, and if they could be turned into, worker transportation.
That has been brought up. I think, one of the answers that I got from that, though, was that the help wanted situation is so desperate all across the state that in our reasonable drive to area, that they didn't seem to be very positive about that as a resolution. So not that it would be ruled out completely, but it wasn't met with much positive conversation.
No one wants to give up their workers.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. What is the process for having a student work at your local business during the summer? Is there a website we can go to for additional details?
Yeah, you could go to the Department of State. Just Google U.S. Department of State, J1 Summer Work Travel, SWT, and they have lists of sponsors, designated sponsors. I also, Vicki, are some of the sponsors members of the Cape May County Chamber? Do you have like a member directory folks could go to?
Yes, they are. And if you want to reach out to me for that information, who some of the sponsoring organizations are, I'd be happy to follow up. I will
caution you, you definitely reach out. I think that it's a process that typically you want to start late summer for the next year. So certainly in the fall for the next year. So it's a little bit late for this season, and especially considering the the issues that we're facing, it might be difficult, but certainly by all means reach out and get the information. And then for those who maybe haven't worked with the program before, plan on sort of a late summer, early fall implementation, or hiring plan with a sponsor, select a sponsor, and work from there. I will say students are allowed to work for multiple employers. So if you hire someone once they're here in the States, you do need to still get approval. So what happens sometimes, I think people just assume they have a social security card, they have a work permit, I can hire them. The Department of State still requires that business to be vetted. So you do need to look at their work permit and reach out to that sponsor to make sure that your business gets approved to allow that student to work there.
The next question was, there a trial jitney to Cape May? And that I am not 100% sure about. Gina, I think, were you asking about from Atlantic City area?
I had heard maybe 2 years ago that from Wildwood for housing, the cheaper housing, that I think the county was doing it, that, on a trial basis, and that maybe one day the jitney might go to all of Cape May County.
Talking about fare-free transportation?
Just public transportation in general.
Okay. Marie Hayes, I see you have joined us. Do you know anything about something like that?
Vic, we had looked into a program a couple of years ago. It did not work out. As you probably know, our fare-free transportation is a transportation that only goes during the weekdays, not on the weekends. So that is something that, we didn't have a whole lot of demand for it once, we did the experiment for it. Certainly it's something that I can talk to my people now about, because I think we're in a lot different circumstances. But we're very limited as to, how we're working. But I can tell you this, I mean, we suffer every year from not having enough drivers because of, the rate of pay with the CDL drivers. They don't make what they can make on the outside with us. So we have a couple different things that go against us, but now we have just started our Uber on Demand program. And that is a program where you download the app and you can get the Uber service through Fare Free. So we're in the experimental stages with that. And so far that seems to be working out really well. So I think that there's probably a couple things I'm drawing from the conversation today that I'm going to go back and talk to my Fare Free people about, because we are in different circumstances with what is going on right now. So does that answer everybody's question, I hope? If not, fire it at me.
Well,
I
who
think
qualifies? What are the qualifications for Fare Free?
Anybody qualifies. All they have to do is call Fare Free, set up, they go through some questions. A lot of people think that Fare Free is only for the disabled, the elderly. That is not so. I mean, it's really for anyone who signs up for the program and we're able to service. That's what it is. But understand that we are a program that only works during the week and during the day. And there are some circumstances on the weekend where we have, buses going. I'll give you, for example, we have a weekend bus that goes to the Coast Guard base to take the recruits they have one day off. So we have a Fare Free bus that will go there on the weekends to take them to Wildwood, Rio Grande, to different places so they can shop and get things that they need, maybe go out to dinner or whatever. But anyone is qualified for it.
Morey, maybe that's something that, we can discuss more, especially if a housing facility it at some point is constructed, because that's really something that is in great need, which might provide housing for students, that would need transportation to other places.
Vic, anything's on the table. I mean, let's sit down and talk, because like I said, we're in different circumstances right now. I mean, we've tried these programs. We didn't get a whole lot of, people that were interested. We also tried programs and bringing people over from different counties. It never materialized.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Morey, and I appreciate you being here.
Anytime, that.
I don't know if Jeff Rosella had his hand up for a lot of the presentation. So I don't know, Jeff, do you still have a question? Looks like he's trying to unmute.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, first of all, I want to say thank you to Vicki, Tracy, and Denise for having this. Very informative. And the only thing I do, it's not a question, it's more something I heard from one of our landlords this week, who we've had a relationship for many years, is that he's going to, since he thinks we're not going to have the students, and he didn't have the students last year, he's going to transform into an Airbnb. So in the future, we're probably losing one landlord, which would be next year 2 landlords, and 2 years from now it'll be 8. So there's nothing much we can do about it, being the housing situation what it is, but it's been tight before, and I think it's going to just get worse if this Airbnb takes off. So just wanted to throw that out there. He just told me on like early last week. So nothing we can do, but that's just another hurdle for us to jump.
It is, and I think, I think it's something Vicki's talked about a lot, and like Vicki and Morey were just talking about with transportation, where we house and accommodate these folks and how we get them to the job sites is going to be something that I think if we could try to work to solve as a community, that would be great, instead of everyone fend for themselves, and maybe there's something, we can explore, offshore but it is absolutely a coming challenge
Yes, it is.
now, but it's gonna increase for sure.
See any other questions in the chat? Don't see any more raised hands. Thanks for pointing that one out. I hope this was informative. There's probably more that we don't know than we do know, but appreciate everyone spending a part of their afternoon with us. And as Tracy said, if you didn't have a chance to sign on to the coalition letter, let me know. We'll see what we can get to you. And thank you to everyone who did and who shared the letter. And every time there is one of those letters, we get more and more participation from Cape May County. So, and we thank you very much. That really does mean a lot. All of those signatures really do add credibility to the importance of the program here in Cape May County and in New Jersey. And it really helps fortify the ask every time we ask our elected officials to go to bat for us. So it's very, very impactful. So with that, any further comments, Denise or Tracy?
No, thanks for putting it together, and
Thank you.
always enjoy working with you two ladies. So
Thank you very much. I wish everyone a good rest of your day and a good week. So thanks so much. And until next time, see you later.